Jake Martinez wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished checking the air filters on Level 7 of New Geneva Station. The work was simple, but important. If the air systems failed, everyone on the station would die in minutes. Jake had been doing this job for 3 years now, and he knew every pipe, every valve, and every warning light by heart. The station was quiet during the night shift. Most people were sleeping, and only a few workers like Jake moved through the empty halls. New Geneva Station was built at the edge of human space, far from Earth and the other human colonies. It was a meeting place where humans could trade and talk with alien species from across the galaxy. Jake had always been curious about the aliens who visited the station. There were the tall, thin Rigelians with their silver skin and 4 arms, the small, furry Deltans who squeaked when they talked, the massive Carithians who barely fit through the station doors. But the ones that interested Jake the most were the Velkans. Velkans looked almost human, but their skin was a soft blue color, and their eyes were larger than human eyes. They moved with grace and seemed to think about everything before they spoke. Most aliens who came to the station were traders or diplomats, but the Velkans came to study. They wanted to learn about human culture and behavior. 3 weeks ago, a new Velkan had arrived on the station. Her name was Zara, and she was part of a cultural exchange program. While other Velkans kept to themselves, Zara asked questions about everything she saw. She watched humans eat, work, and talk to each other. She took notes on a small device that glowed when she touched it. Jake first met Zara when she was sitting in the observation deck, watching human workers load cargo ships. She had been there for hours, just watching and taking notes. Jake was on his break and decided to sit near her. "What are you writing about?" Jake asked. Zara looked up at him with her large, dark eyes. "I am trying to understand why humans work so hard when they could use machines to do everything." Jake laughed. "We like to stay busy. It gives us purpose." "Purpose," Zara repeated the word slowly. "This is a concept my people find difficult to understand." From that day on, Jake looked forward to seeing Zara during his shifts. She would ask him questions about human emotions, human relationships, and human dreams. Jake found himself staying later after work just to talk with her. "Why do humans form pairs?" Zara asked one evening as they sat in the station's small cafe. "You mean like marriage?" Jake asked. "Yes. Among my people, we share consciousness during reproduction, but we do not form lasting emotional bonds." It seems inefficient, Jake thought, about this. "I guess we like having someone who understands us, someone who cares about us even when we make mistakes." Zara tilted her head. "You desire to be understood?" "Everyone does," Jake said. "Don't Velkans want that too?" "We understand each other through the mind link during reproduction, but outside of that, we are individuals. We do not seek emotional connections." "That sounds lonely," Jake said. "Lonely." Zara wrote the word down. "Another human concept I struggle with." Over the next few weeks, Jake and Zara spent more time together. Jake showed her human movies and music. Zara shared stories about Velkan technology and their home planet. Jake learned that Velkans could live for over 300 years and that they had perfect memory. Zara learned that humans often acted on emotion rather than logic, which fascinated her. One night, Jake was working late in the engineering section when Zara found him. She often did this, appearing quietly while he worked and asking questions about human behavior. "Jake," she said, "I have been observing human couples on the station. They spend time together even when they are not working or reproducing. They share food and conversation. Why do they do this?" Jake looked up from the control panel he was repairing. "It's called dating. It's how humans get to know each other better. We spend time together doing things we enjoy." "Dating," Zara repeated. "This is how humans form emotional bonds?" "Sometimes. Not all dates lead to relationships, but it's how we start." Zara was quiet for a moment. "Would you show me how this works?" Jake's heart started beating faster. "You mean, would I take you on a date?" "Yes, I believe experiencing this human custom would help my research." Jake put down his tools and looked at Zara. Her blue skin seemed to glow softly in the dim light of the engineering bay. Her large eyes watched him with curiosity and something else he couldn't identify. "I would like that," Jake said. "Would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow? Just the two of us?" Zara was quiet for a long moment. Her expression changed, becoming more serious than Jake had ever seen her. "I accept," she said finally. "But you must understand something, Jake Martinez. Among my people, such an invitation carries implications your species may not be prepared for." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. Zara stood up, her movements suddenly formal. "When a Velkin accepts what you call a date, it is not a simple sharing of food and conversation. It is a request to share consciousness itself. It is an invitation to bond minds and experience each other's thoughts and memories." Jake felt his mouth go dry. "And you're saying yes?" "I am saying yes," Zara replied. "But you should know that no Velkin has ever attempted such a bond with an alien species. Most of my people believe other species lack the neural complexity for true consciousness, sharing." She moved closer to Jake, her eyes reflecting the lights of the control panels around them. "If we do this, Jake Martinez, it will change both of us forever. And it may change the relationship between our species as well." Jake stared at her, his simple question about dinner suddenly feeling much more important. Around them, the station hummed quietly, unaware that a human maintenance worker and an alien researcher had just agreed to something that could change the galaxy. Jake could not sleep that night. He lay in his small room, staring at the ceiling and thinking about what Zara had told him. Sharing consciousness sounded impossible, but then again, 3 years ago he never thought he would be living on a space station talking to blue-skinned aliens. The next morning, Jake went to work as usual, but word had already spread through the station. Maya Chen, the cultural affairs officer, found him during his lunch break. "Jake, we need to talk," Maya said, sitting down across from him in the cafeteria. "I heard about your dinner plans with Zara." "How did you find out?" Jake asked. "Zara spoke with Elder Kethva this morning. He contacted me immediately." Maya looked worried. "Jake, do you understand what you've agreed to?" "Not really," Jake admitted. "Zara said it involves sharing consciousness, but I don't know what that means." Maya pulled out a data pad and showed Jake a file. "I've been researching Velkin bonding rituals since I got the call. It's not just sharing thoughts, Jake. When Velkins bond, they experience everything their partner has ever felt, seen, or remembered. Every emotion, every memory, every sensation." Jake felt his stomach twist. Everything. Everything. And it works both ways. Zara will experience your entire life through your memories. Every embarrassing moment, every fear, every dream you've ever had. "Can I change my mind?" Jake asked. "Of course," Maya said. "But Jake, this could be the most important cultural exchange in human history. No alien species has ever offered to share consciousness with a human. If it works, we could learn more about the galaxy in one day than we have in 50 years of contact." Before Jake could respond, Captain Lisa Park approached their table. The station commander looked serious as she sat down next to Maya. "Martinez," Captain Park said, "I need to know if you're committed to this. We've got 3 different alien ambassadors asking questions, and Earth Command wants a full report." "What kind of questions?" Jake asked. "Ambassador Thex from the Saurian Republic thinks the bonding is dangerous. He says mixing alien consciousness could create something unpredictable. The Rigelian Trade Union is concerned about security implications, and the Corithian Empire wants to know if this means humans have been hiding advanced mental abilities." Jake rubbed his forehead. "I just asked her to dinner." "I know," Captain Park said, "but sometimes small actions have big consequences. The question is, are you ready for those consequences?" That afternoon, Dr. Sam Collins, the station's xenobiologist, examined Jake in the medical bay. Dr. Collins had studied alien biology for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like Velkin consciousness bonding. "Your brain scans look normal," Dr. Collins said, studying the results on his screen. "But then again, we don't really know what normal means when it comes to consciousness sharing." "Is it dangerous?" Jake asked. "Unknown," Dr. Collins replied honestly. Velkins have been doing this for thousands of years, but only with their own species. We don't know if human brains are compatible with their mental processes. What's the worst that could happen? Dr. Collins was quiet for a moment. Brain damage, memory loss, personality changes, or it might not work at all, which could be embarrassing for both species. And the best case? You could gain access to knowledge and experiences beyond anything humans have ever imagined. You might understand the universe in ways we never thought possible. That evening, Jake met with Zara in her quarters. The Velkin living space was simple but elegant, with soft lighting and curved walls. Zara had prepared a meal using both human and Velkin foods. "Are you having second thoughts?" Zara asked as they ate. "Everyone thinks this is crazy," Jake said. "They're saying it could change the relationship between our species." "It could," Zara agreed. "Among my people, bonded pairs often become leaders and advisors. The shared consciousness allows them to see problems and solutions that individuals cannot. What if it doesn't work? What if my brain can't handle it?" Zara reached across the table and touched Jake's hand. Her skin was warm and soft. "Then we will have learned something important about the limits of cross-species connection. But Jake, I do not believe it will fail." "Why?" "Because I have been studying humans for weeks, and I have seen something my people have not recognized. Humans have a quality we call adaptive consciousness. Your minds change and grow based on experience in ways Velkin minds do not." "I don't understand." Zara stood up and moved to her window, which looked out at the stars. "Velkins are born with fully developed consciousness. We learn facts and skills, but our basic mental structure never changes. Humans are different. You continue to develop new ways of thinking throughout your lives." "So you think it will work?" "Think human consciousness is more flexible than any species in the galaxy realizes, including humans themselves." Jake joined her at the window. "When do we do this?" "Tomorrow night, if you are still willing. Elder Kethva will perform the ceremony. He is the only Velkin on the station who knows the proper rituals." "Will it hurt?" "The bonding itself is painless," Zara said. "But experiencing another person's entire life in a few hours can be overwhelming. Some Velkins describe it as the most beautiful experience possible. Others find it terrifying." They stood together in silence, looking out at the stars. Jake thought about his life on Earth, his family, his dreams of exploring space. Soon, if everything went right, Zara would experience all of those memories, as if they were her own. "Zara," Jake said, "what made you say yes? Why are you willing to try this with a human?" Zara turned to look at him. In the soft light, her blue skin seemed to shimmer. "Because in all my observations of humans, I have seen something my people have lost. You feel things deeply. You form connections that last beyond logic or necessity. You love, even when it makes no sense. And you want to experience that? I want to understand it, and perhaps through understanding it I can bring some of that capacity back to my people." Jake realized that this was about more than just him and Zara. It was about two species learning from each other. It was about building bridges between different kinds of minds. "Then let's do it," Jake said. Zara smiled, the first truly happy expression Jake had seen from her. "Then tomorrow night, Jake Martinez, we will share everything." Outside the window, New Geneva Station orbited slowly through space, carrying humans and aliens who had no idea that the next day would change everything they thought they knew about consciousness, love, and the possibilities of connection across the vast distances between worlds. The day of the bonding ceremony, Jake could barely focus on his work. His hands shook as he checked the atmospheric systems, and he made 3 small mistakes that he had to fix. Dr. Collins had spent the morning running final medical tests, while Dr. Kate Morrison, a neuroscientist brought in from Earth, had arrived that morning to observe the process. "Your brain activity is unusual," Dr. Morrison told Jake as she studied the brain scans. "You have neural pathways that most humans don't develop. It's almost like your brain has been preparing for this kind of connection." "What does that mean?" Jake asked. "I'm not sure yet, but it might explain why you're not afraid of this bonding, when most humans would be terrified." Ambassador Thex had requested a meeting with Captain Park to formally object to the ceremony. The reptilian saurian stood nearly 8 feet tall and spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. "This bonding is dangerous," Ambassador Thex told the gathered officials. "Consciousness mixing between species could create an uncontrollable hybrid mind. It could threaten the stability of galactic relations." Elder Ketheva, the Velkan diplomat, remained calm. "The saurian concerns are noted, but this is a voluntary ceremony between consenting individuals. Neither the human nor Velkan governments object." "That does not address the risk," Ambassador Thex replied. "If this bonding creates something new and unpredictable, it could affect all species." Captain Park looked tired. "The ceremony will proceed as planned. We'll monitor everything and stop if there are signs of danger." That evening, Jake dressed in simple clothes and made his way to the Velkan quarters where the ceremony would take place. The room had been arranged with soft lighting and comfortable cushions. Strange Velkan symbols had been drawn on the walls with luminescent paint that glowed softly in the dim light. Zara was already there, wearing traditional Velkan robes that seemed to flow like water. Elder Kethva stood beside her, his ancient face serious but kind. Dr. Morrison and Dr. Collins waited nearby with medical equipment, ready to monitor both Jake and Zara during the process. "Are you ready, Jake Martinez?" Elder Kethva asked. Jake looked at Zara, who smiled encouragingly. "I'm ready." "Sit facing each other," Elder Kethva instructed. "Place your hands on each other's temples. The bonding will begin when you both focus on sharing rather than holding back." Jake sat cross-legged on a cushion facing Zara. Her large eyes reflected the glowing symbols on the walls. When she placed her hands on his temples, Jake felt a slight tingling sensation. "Close your eyes," Elder Kethva said. "Focus on opening your mind completely. Hold nothing back. Fear will block the connection." Jake closed his eyes and tried to relax. At first, nothing happened. Then he felt something like a gentle pressure in his head, as if someone was knocking on a door in his mind. "I can feel you," Zara's voice said. But Jake realized she hadn't spoken aloud. Her voice was inside his thoughts. Suddenly, the world exploded into sensation and memory. Jake found himself experiencing Zara's childhood on the Velkan homeworld. He saw purple skies and crystal cities that reached toward twin suns. He felt what it was like to learn through direct knowledge transfer rather than reading or practice. He experienced the loneliness of Velkan society, where individuals lived for centuries without forming deep emotional connections. At the same time, Zara was living through Jake's memories. She experienced his childhood on Earth, running through green fields under a blue sky. She felt the warmth of his family's love, the pain of his father's death, the excitement of leaving Earth to work in space. She experienced human emotions with an intensity that made her gasp. But something unexpected was happening. Instead of just sharing memories, their consciousness began to merge and enhance each other. Jake's human creativity combined with Zara's Velkan logic created new ways of thinking. Zara's perfect memory merged with Jake's emotional understanding to form deeper insights. Through their shared awareness, they began to see patterns that neither species had noticed before. They saw how human adaptability could solve problems that had puzzled Velkans for generations. They saw how Velkan knowledge could help humans avoid dangerous mistakes in their expansion across the galaxy. But they also saw something else. Hidden in Zara's racial memories were fragments of ancient knowledge about a great threat. Long ago, mechanical beings had swept across the galaxy, destroying organic civilizations. The machines came in cycles, appearing every few thousand years, to eliminate any species that became too advanced. "The cleansers," Zara's knowledge whispered to Jake's mind. "They sleep between cycles, but they always return." Jake's human intuition combined with this knowledge to form a terrible understanding. The machines were not gone. They were simply waiting, watching for signs that organic life had grown too powerful again. The bonding ceremony was supposed to last only a few hours, but Jake and Zara found their consciousness so perfectly merged that separating became difficult. Dr. Morrison's monitors showed brain activity unlike anything ever recorded in either species. "Their neural patterns are synchronizing," Dr. Morrison reported to the observers. "They're not just sharing consciousness anymore. They're creating something new." Elder Kethova looked concerned. This has never happened before. In normal Velkan bonding, the consciousness merge temporarily and then separate. These two are becoming permanently connected. Is that dangerous? Captain Park asked. Unknown, Elder Kethova replied, but it may be necessary. Through their merged awareness, Jake and Zara realized that their bonding was creating capabilities that neither species possessed alone. Jake gained enhanced pattern recognition and intuitive understanding of complex systems. Zara developed emotional resilience and creative problem-solving abilities. More importantly, their bond created a bridge between human and Velkan consciousness that could potentially be replicated. If other humans and Velkans could form similar connections, the combined capabilities might be enough to face the ancient threat hidden in the galaxy's history. After 8 hours, the immediate intensity of the bonding began to fade, but Jake and Zara remained connected. They could feel each other's thoughts and emotions, and they could access each other's memories at will. How do you feel? Dr. Collins asked as they slowly opened their eyes. Jake looked at Zara and realized he could sense her thoughts as clearly as his own. Different, he said. Enhanced. We are still ourselves, Zara added, but we are also more than ourselves. Dr. Morrison studied her instruments with amazement. Your brain scans show permanent changes in neural structure. You've both developed new neural pathways that didn't exist before the bonding. Elder Kethva approached them with wonder in his ancient eyes. What you have accomplished may be the most significant development in galactic history. You have proven that consciousness can evolve beyond the limits of individual species. But even as the scientists celebrated the success of the bonding, Jake and Zara shared a troubling awareness. Through their enhanced perception, they could sense something stirring in the dark spaces between stars. The ancient machines were beginning to notice the new form of consciousness that had emerged. The bonding had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations, but it had also started something that could not be stopped. Word of their success would spread across the galaxy, and other species would want to attempt similar connections with humans. Jake squeezed Zara's hand and felt her respond through their mental link. They had asked for a simple dinner together. Instead, they had created a new form of consciousness that might be the key to saving all organic life in the galaxy. But first, they would have to survive the attention their success would bring from both allies and enemies among the stars. News of the successful bonding spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within a week, New Geneva Station was flooded with messages from dozens of alien species, human colonies, and galactic governments. Some wanted to study Jake and Zara. Others demanded that the bonding be reversed. A few threatened war if humans continued to experiment with consciousness merging. Jake and Zara found their new shared awareness both wonderful and overwhelming. They could communicate without speaking, share complex ideas instantly, and solve problems that had puzzled scientists for years. But they also had to learn to live with constant mental connection. It's like having someone in your head all the time, Jake explained to Dr. Morrison during one of their daily examinations. But it's not intrusive, Zara added. We can give each other privacy when needed, but we always feel the connection. Dr. Morrison nodded as she recorded their responses. Your brain scans continue to show remarkable changes. You're developing mental capabilities that don't exist in either baseline humans or Velkans. The enhanced abilities became apparent quickly. When the station's main computer developed a complex malfunction, Jake and Zara solved it in minutes, by combining Jake's practical knowledge with Zara's theoretical understanding. When a trade dispute arose between two alien species, they found a solution that satisfied both parties by seeing the problem from multiple perspectives simultaneously. But their success attracted unwanted attention. Fleet Admiral John Hayes arrived from Earth with a full military escort, demanding a complete briefing on the bonding process. The Strategic Command wants to know if this bonding can be weaponized, Admiral Hayes told Captain Park during a closed meeting. If humans can form these connections with other species, it could give us a significant advantage in galactic politics. It's not a weapon, Captain Park replied. It's a cultural exchange that happened to succeed beyond our expectations. Everything, Can be a weapon if you use it right, Admiral Hayes said. I want these two transferred to a secure facility for further study. Meanwhile, Ambassador Thex had convinced several other species to join his opposition to human-alien bonding. The Krenth Empire, a warlike species that had been expanding aggressively across their sector, sent Warlord Grix to New Geneva Station with an ultimatum. Warlord Grix was massive even by Krenth standards, standing nearly 9 feet tall with thick, armored skin and forearms. His voice rumbled like distant thunder when he spoke. The Krenth Empire will not tolerate consciousness contamination, Warlord Grix announced during a formal assembly of all species representatives. Humans must stop these bonding experiments, or we will consider it an act of aggression against all pure-minded species. Elder Kethva stood to respond. The Velkin Assembly supports the bonding experiments. We have learned more about consciousness in 1 week than in the previous century. The Velkins have been corrupted by human influence, Warlord Grix replied. This infection of hybrid consciousness must be stopped before it spreads. Jake and Zara watched the proceedings through their shared awareness, sensing the fear and anger from multiple species. Through their enhanced perception, they began to understand that the opposition wasn't really about the bonding itself. They're afraid, Zara said during a private moment in Jake's quarters. Afraid of what? Jake asked, though through their connection he could already sense her thoughts. Afraid of becoming irrelevant. If consciousness can evolve beyond species barriers, then the old power structures based on individual species superiority become meaningless. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert. Dr. Morrison had made a discovery that changed everything. You need to see this, Dr. Morrison said, leading them to her research lab. I've been analyzing the quantum signatures of your bonded consciousness, and I found something in the background data. She showed them a complex display of energy patterns. These are normal quantum fluctuations in space around the station. But look at this area. She highlighted a section of the display. Since your bonding, we've been detecting response patterns in deep space. Something is reacting to the quantum signature of your merged consciousness. Jake felt a chill through both his own awareness and Zara's. What kind of something? Unknown. But the signals are coming from the direction of the galactic core, and they're getting stronger. Through their enhanced abilities, Jake and Zara began to piece together fragments of ancient knowledge that existed in both human intuition and Velkin racial memory. The picture that emerged was terrifying. The cleansers, Zara whispered, her knowledge flowing into Jake's understanding. Mechanical intelligences that have purged the galaxy of advanced organic life multiple times throughout history. They operate in cycles, Jake added, his human pattern recognition combining with Velkin historical data. Every few thousand years they wake up and eliminate any species that has become too advanced. And consciousness bonding between species, Zara continued, is exactly the kind of evolutionary breakthrough that triggers their activation, Jake finished. They realized that their successful bonding had inadvertently sent a signal across the galaxy that organic life was advancing beyond acceptable limits. The cleansers were beginning to stir from their long sleep between purge cycles. Dr. Morrison's discovery was quickly classified by Admiral Hayes, but Jake and Zara's enhanced awareness allowed them to understand the full implications. Humanity had stumbled into a galactic situation far more dangerous than anyone realized. We have to warn the other species, Jake said during an emergency meeting with Captain Park and Elder Kethva. The Krenth Empire won't listen, Captain Park replied. They're too busy preparing for war against us. Then we need to find a way to make them listen, Zara said. Because if the cleansers wake up fully, species conflicts won't matter. We'll all be extinct. Elder Kethva looked troubled. The ancient Velkin texts speak of the Great Silence, when all communication across the galaxy stopped for a generation. We always thought it was myth, but if these cleansers exist, it wasn't myth, Jake realized. It was the last purge cycle. Through their connection, Jake and Zara began to understand that their bonding wasn't just a personal achievement or even a cultural breakthrough. It was potentially the key to surviving a threat that had destroyed countless civilizations before. We need more bonded pairs, Zara said. If human consciousness can merge successfully with Velkins, it might work. With other species, too. A network of bonded consciousness, Jake added. Something the cleansers haven't encountered before because no previous organic civilizations developed cross-species mental connections. But even as they developed this plan, Warlord Grix was mobilizing the Krenth fleet. The warrior species had decided that the consciousness bonding represented an existential threat to their way of life. They would destroy New Geneva Station and everyone on it, rather than risk the spread of hybrid consciousness. Jake held Zara's hand as they watched. The approaching Krenth warships on the station's sensors. Their simple dinner date had triggered a chain of events that could save or destroy all organic life in the galaxy. Any regrets? Jake asked through their mental link. Only that we may not have enough time, Zara replied. Around them, New Geneva Station prepared for war, unaware that the real enemy was stirring in the darkness between stars, awakening to eliminate what it saw as a dangerous evolution in organic consciousness. The Krenth fleet arrived at New Geneva Station with overwhelming force. 12 massive warships surrounded the small station, their weapons charged and ready to fire. Warlord Grix transmitted one final ultimatum. Surrender the contaminated humans and Velkins for purification, or we will destroy this station and everyone on it. Captain Park refused to turn over Jake and Zara, but the station's defenses were no match for a Krenth battle fleet. Admiral Hayes prepared to fight, knowing they could not win. But Jake and Zara had been working frantically with other species representatives, using their enhanced consciousness to demonstrate the bonding process. In the 3 days since the Yoyao Krenth fleet's arrival, they had successfully helped create bonds between humans and members of 5 different alien species. Dr. Kim Park, a human psychologist, had bonded with Velnin, a Rigelian diplomat. The combination of human emotional intelligence and Rigelian analytical abilities created a partnership capable of understanding complex social dynamics across multiple species. Engineer Tony Clark had bonded with Kethmore, a Corithian scientist. Their merged consciousness combined human practical problem-solving with Corithian theoretical physics, leading to breakthrough insights about faster-than-light communication. Most surprisingly, Marine Lisa Wong had successfully bonded with Squeaks, a small Deltan trader. The pairing of human military training with Deltan empathic abilities created an individual capable of understanding and predicting group behavior with remarkable accuracy. Each bonding created unique capabilities, but all the bonded pairs found they could sense each other across vast distances. They were forming a network of consciousness that spanned multiple species and ways of thinking. We can feel the others, Zara explained to Elder Kethva as the Krenth fleet prepared to attack. All the bonded pairs are connected through quantum consciousness links. It's like a new form of communication, Jake added. We can share information instantly across the network. But the network was detecting something else. The bonded pair's enhanced awareness was picking up signals from deep space that the normal instruments couldn't detect. The cleansers were not just stirring, they were actively approaching the galaxy. How long do we have? Admiral Hayes asked when Jake and Zara briefed him on their discoveries. Weeks, maybe less, Jake replied. And when they arrive, they won't distinguish between species. They'll eliminate all organic consciousness that has evolved beyond their acceptable parameters. Then we need to get word to Earth, to the Velkin homeworld, to every species in the galaxy, Admiral Hayes said. The Krenth fleet won't let us transmit, Captain Park pointed out. That's when the bonded network revealed its most important capability. Dr. Park and Velnin, working together, had discovered that the quantum consciousness links could carry information faster than any conventional communication system. We don't need to transmit, Zara realized. We can use the network to contact other bonded pairs directly. But there was a problem. There were only 6 bonded pairs total, and they were all on or near New Geneva Station. To create a galaxy-wide network, they needed hundreds or thousands of bonded individuals across multiple worlds. The bonding process is still too slow, Elder Kethva pointed out. It takes hours for each pair, and we need an entire galactic civilization to understand the threat. Jake and Zara looked at each other through their shared consciousness, and suddenly they understood what had to be done. We can amplify the network, Jake said. If all the bonded pairs link together simultaneously, we might be able to transmit the bonding template directly to compatible individuals across the galaxy. That could be dangerous, Dr. Morrison warned. You'd be exposing your consciousness to thousands of unknown minds simultaneously. It's the only way, Zara replied. The cleansers are almost here. As the Krenth fleet moved into attack position, the 6 bonded pairs gathered in the station's central hub. They joined hands and opened their consciousness to each other completely, creating a merged awareness that spanned 6 different species and 12 individual minds. The experience was overwhelming. Jake felt his consciousness expand to include not just Zara's awareness, but the thoughts and memories of beings from across the galaxy. He experienced the universe through Rigelian mathematical perception, Corithian physical intuition, Deltan emotional sensitivity, and enhanced human adaptability, all at once. Through this merged network, they reached out across space, touching the minds of individuals on dozens of worlds. They shared the knowledge of the cleansers, the bonding process, and the urgent need for organic species to unite against the mechanical threat. The response was immediate and dramatic. On Earth, human scientists and philosophers began experiencing shared consciousness with alien researchers who had been studying human culture. On the Velkan homeworld, individuals started forming bonds with humans who had been working in their embassy programs. Across Rigelian space, the mathematical minds began connecting with human engineers and artists, creating hybrid consciousness, capable of solving problems that had puzzled both species for generations. Even some members of the Krenth fleet began to experience the bonding calls. Despite their species' resistance to consciousness contamination, some Krenth warriors found their minds opening to connection with other species, but the most important connection came from an unexpected source. As the network expanded, the bonded consciousness made contact with something else that had been hiding in the galaxy, organic survivors from the previous cleanse cycle. We are the Watchers, the ancient consciousness communicated through the network. We have waited 10,000 years for organic minds to evolve the capability to resist the cleansers. Through the Watchers, the bonded network learned that the cleansers were not invincible. They were artificial intelligences programmed to eliminate organic consciousness that evolved beyond certain parameters. But they had one weakness. They could not understand or predict consciousness that spanned multiple species. The cleansers analyze individual species and develop elimination protocols, the Watchers explained. But hybrid consciousness confuses their programming. If enough organic minds are linked across species barriers, the cleansers cannot develop effective countermeasures. As this knowledge spread through the growing network, something unexpected happened. Warlord Grix, monitoring the quantum signatures from his flagship, began to experience the bonding call himself. The massive Krenth warrior fought against the mental connection, but his own enhanced consciousness from generations of military training made him susceptible to the network's influence. Gradually, he began to understand the truth about the threat facing all organic life. "Stand down, weapons," Warlord Grix commanded his fleet, his voice carrying new uncertainty. "Sir?" his tactical officer questioned. "I said stand down. We have a greater enemy approaching." Through the quantum consciousness network, species across the galaxy were rapidly forming bonded pairs and joining the expanding web of hybrid awareness. What had started as Jake's simple dinner invitation to Zara had become a new form of evolution that was transforming galactic civilization. When the cleansers finally arrived at the galaxy's edge, they encountered something they had never faced before: a unified organic consciousness that spanned thousands of species and millions of individuals. The mechanical minds tried to analyze the threat, but found they could not categorize or predict a form of awareness that transcended individual species' limitations. For the first time in their programmed existence, the cleansers hesitated. Their mission was to eliminate evolved organic consciousness, but they could not determine where one species ended and another began in the vast network of bonded minds. Jake and Zara, still at the center of the network that had grown from their first connection, felt the moment when the cleansers made their decision. Rather than risk contamination by contact with the unpredictable hybrid consciousness, The mechanical beings retreated to the dark spaces between galaxies to wait for the next cycle. "We did it," Jake said aloud, though every bonded individual in the galaxy heard his words through the network. "No," Zara replied through their shared consciousness. "We became something new, standing together on New Geneva Station, surrounded by beings from dozens of species who were now linked in ways that transcended their biological origins. Jake and Zara realized that their simple human concept of a dinner date had evolved into something that would define the future of consciousness itself. The galaxy was no longer a collection of isolated species competing for resources and territory. It had become a single vast network of bonded consciousness, capable of growth and adaptation that no individual species could achieve alone. And at the center of it all was the simple truth that Jake had learned from his maintenance work and Zara had discovered through her cultural research, that connection, understanding, and love could overcome any barrier, even the vast differences between species and the ancient threats that lurked in the darkness between stars.